My hand shook as I watched him exchange vows with another woman. My pregnancy test was still warm in my pocket. 9 months ago, he'd called me a manipulative liar when I whispered the news of our child. "You're just trying to trap me?" he'd sneered, the sprawling family empire looming behind him like a fortress. Little did he know, as rose petals showered his perfect bride, that I was carrying the true heir to his kingdom. I quietly slipped away from the cathedral, one hand resting gently on my swollen belly. My lawyer's number was already dialed, a habit I had quickly developed. Sometimes, revenge arrives in the smallest of packages. I shifted uncomfortably in the last pew of St. Patrick's Cathedral, adjusting my loose navy dress lower over my nearly 9-month baby bump. The towering flower arrangements of white roses and lilies, worth more than my monthly rent, made it difficult to breathe. Or maybe it was the baby pressing against my lungs. Ethan's wedding to Charlotte Wright was the social event of the year, with enough security to make a presidential visit seem casual. Yet here I was, Mia Hunter, uninvited and very pregnant, watching the man who had abandoned me. Charlotte, his perfect social equal, walked gracefully down the aisle, escorted by her proud father, the banking mogul Robert Wright. The cathedral glittered with the city's elite politicians, celebrities, and business moguls, all dressed in their finest. I had snuck in with a group of distant relatives, my old employee badge, and an outdated invitation, often enough to confuse the junior security staff. Now, I sat partially hidden behind a stone pillar, clutching my purse, where I kept the evidence that would soon shatter Ethan's carefully constructed world. As the wedding march began, the assembly rose. I remained seated, using the moment of distraction to catch my breath. Charlotte appeared at the entrance, a vision in designer white silk. Her father, Robert Wright, beamed with pride as he escorted her down the aisle. Watching Charlotte's graceful procession, I was suddenly transported back to the night I first met Ethan. The Carter Development Group was celebrating their largest project of the year, a sustainable mixed-use complex that I had designed. I was 28, newly promoted to senior architect, proudly showcasing the miniature model when a deep voice behind me said, "You've managed to make concrete look almost beautiful." When I turned, annoyed by what seemed like a backhanded compliment, I found myself staring into the most magnetic blue eyes I had ever seen. Ethan Carter, heir to the development empire, with his perfectly tailored suit and confident smile. I challenged him. Immediately. "Almost. I'd like to see you do better." Instead of being offended, he laughed, a genuine sound that made several heads turn in surprise. "I deserve that," he admitted. "Let me make it up to you with dinner." So began our whirlwind romance. A successful architect falling for the son of her firm's owner. It sounded like a modern fairy tale. I immediately challenged him. "Almost. I'd like to see you do better." Instead of getting offended, he laughed, a genuine sound that caused several heads to turn in surprise. "I deserved that," he admitted. "Let me make it up to you with dinner." So began our whirlwind romance. A successful architect falling for the son of the firm's owner. It sounded like a modern fairy tale. If only I had recognized the red flags, how he insisted on paying for everything, how he subtly criticized my practical wardrobe, how his compliments always contained a hint of correction. The minister's voice pulled me back to the present. If anyone can show just cause why this couple should not lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. My heart pounded wildly. This was the movie moment, wasn't it? The wronged woman standing up dramatically, revealing her pregnancy and chaos ensuing. My hand instinctively moved to my stomach, where our child, our daughter, I'd recently learned, kicked, almost urging me to speak. I stayed silent. Ethan didn't deserve a scene. Charlotte didn't deserve public humiliation, regardless of whether she knew about me or not. And my daughter certainly didn't deserve to be introduced to the world through scandal and whispers. My phone vibrated in my purse. Dr. Grace Lawson's name flashed on the screen with a text. Your blood pressure readings from your home monitor are concerning. Can you come in tomorrow instead of Thursday? Earlier, if possible." The cathedral suddenly felt too small, too airless. Ethan and Charlotte were exchanging rings now. His voice was clear and confident as he promised forever to another woman. The same promises he'd whispered to me in our apartment just 8 months ago. I had come here seeking closure, thinking I needed to witness this moment to finally move forward. But sitting here, feeling my daughter's movements while watching Ethan's performance, I realized I had already moved on. The moment he'd called me a liar, thrown my prenatal vitamins across our kitchen, and accused me of getting pregnant to trap him when his family's company was facing financial troubles, that was the real end. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Applause filled the cathedral as Ethan kissed his bride. I used the distraction to stand and slip toward the side exit. My doctor's concern was more important than watching Ethan's fake smile for another minute as I pushed the heavy wooden door open. My wedding invitation, kept as evidence of our relationship, fell from my purse. Before I could reach for it, a slender hand picked it up. "You dropped this," said a woman about my age, her voice kind and gentle. She wore a bridesmaid's dress. "Keep it," I said, my voice low. "I don't need it anymore." Something in my tone made her look closer. Her eyes widened slightly as she noticed my condition. "Are you okay? Do you need help getting somewhere?" The genuine concern in her voice almost broke my composure. It had been months since anyone besides my doctor had shown me such kindness. "I'm fine," I said, managing a small smile. "Thank you." She glanced toward the altar where Ethan was now walking back down the aisle, triumph on his face. Then she looked back at me with dawning understanding. "I'm Sophie," she whispered quickly, slipping a business card into my hand. "Call me if you need anything, seriously." Before I could respond, Ethan's mother appeared. Her sharp eyes narrowed at the sight of Sophie talking to a stranger. "They're taking photos, Sophie. Come along," she commanded, not even glancing at me. I slipped out the door into the bright spring afternoon. The contrast between the cathedral's dim solemnity and the vibrant city street momentarily disoriented me. A black car pulled up to the curb, Ethan's family's signature transportation, and I instinctively stepped back into the shadow of the doorway. The decision crystallized in that moment. I wasn't here for drama or revenge or even closure. I was here to confirm what I already knew. Ethan Carter was a facade, a handsome shell hiding a coward. I didn't need to disrupt his wedding to win. I just needed to build a life so good that his absence would be irrelevant. I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer's number as I walked away from the cathedral. The decision crystallized in that moment. I wasn't here for drama or revenge or even closure. I was here to confirm what I already knew. Ethan Carter was a facade, a handsome shell hiding a coward. I didn't need to disrupt his wedding to win. I just needed to build a life so good that his absence would be irrelevant. I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer's number as I walked away from the cathedral, from Ethan, from the life I had once thought I wanted. "Grace Lawson, it's Mia. I'm ready to file everything. Yes, all of it. The paternity suit, the wrongful termination claim, everything." I paused at the corner, watching Ethan's wedding guests spill onto the steps for photographs. "No, I don't need to wait anymore. I have all the evidence we need." I rapped my belly gently as my daughter kicked again. It's time her father learned that some traps are of his own making. Ethan had never been a man to back down. The family was everything to him, more than I had ever been. I couldn't bring myself to hate Charlotte, though I knew I should. After all, she had become a part of the family I could never be. As I made my way to my lawyer's office, the finality of it all settled in my chest. I was done. I had tried to build a life around Ethan. I had given him everything, my trust, my heart, my career. He had promised me a future, and yet I stood alone, my only companion, my growing child. It was strange, in a way, how much easier it had been to leave him behind when I finally realized what he truly was. a man built on appearances, pretending to be the person everyone expected him to be, but hollow on the inside. Sophia's number was on my phone, her message simple and direct. "We need to talk." I had been expecting it. Ethan's desperation for control would come for me sooner or later. It didn't matter. I had already moved past his world. The next morning, I found myself sitting in Grace Lawson's office, the papers ready for review. The suit was drafted. Paternity, wrongful termination, everything. The evidence was strong. The timing couldn't be better. Ethan's wedding to Charlotte was still the talk of the town, but the storm I was about to bring would shift the narrative in a way they never expected. Grace gave me a reassuring smile. "We're ready, Mia. You've been more than thorough." She passed me a document to sign. The weight of it felt heavy, but in the best possible way. Finally, I was taking control of my life and my future. Later that day, I found myself walking through the quiet streets of the city, my phone buzzing in my hand. It was a message from Liam Carter. "You might want to watch the news. Ethan's making a move." I didn't need to check. I knew he would. He was trying to salvage his reputation, but it was already too late. The public would soon know the truth. Sophia had warned me it would happen, and she was right. The game was shifting, and Ethan wasn't the one in control anymore. By the time the first headline hit, I was already preparing for what would come next. I had anticipated the backlash, the rumors, the whisper campaign. The Carter family had a way of sweeping things under the rug, of making things disappear. But not this time. This time, I wasn't going to hide. The articles started rolling in, each one with a slightly different spin. But the message was the same. Ethan Carter, heir to the empire, had abandoned his pregnant fiancée just weeks before his wedding to Charlotte Wright. The scandal was too juicy to ignore, and soon enough the media had caught the scent of blood in the water. Grace had warned me it would take time, but with each passing hour, I felt a sense of relief building within me. I wasn't just another casualty of their power plays. I was fighting back, and this time, I was winning. The legal battle would take months, but the public battle was already underway, and I was ready. By the time I received the final offer, I had already made up my mind. Ethan's family could throw money at me, could promise me anything they thought would buy my silence, but I was done with their games. The truth was out now, and nothing they offered could take that away. I sat across from Liam Carter in the sterile conference room, a folder full of documents between us. His tired eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something other than the cold calculation I had come to expect from the Carter family. "I know it's not much, Mia," he said, his voice low, "but I'm trying to make it right." I looked at him, the weight of the past months pressing down on me. "You can't fix what's been broken, Liam, but I appreciate the effort," he sighed, nodding as he slid the folder toward me. "This is the best we can do for Sophia, for your daughter." I glanced at the numbers. The settlement offer designed to keep me silent, to keep the family's reputation intact, but I had already made my choice. "It's not enough," I said, pushing the papers back toward him. "I'm not accepting this." Liam's face hardened. "Then what do you want, Mia?" I looked at him, my hand resting over my growing belly. "I want justice." It was the quiet moments that got to me, the times when I was alone, sitting in the apartment, now called home. The silence was deafening at first, but it grew comforting as I adjusted. I had fought for everything I had, for Sophia, for the future I wanted to build with her, and it was working. Slowly, I was building a life. The news kept pouring in, but now it felt like a distant storm, something I could watch from afar without being consumed by it. Ethan had done everything in his power to make me disappear, to erase me from his life and his family's. But it was clear now, he had underestimated me, and he had underestimated Sophia. I spent my days meeting with contractors for the Nest project, making decisions about the future with confidence I hadn't known I had before. It wasn't just about the money or the settlement anymore. It was about something bigger, something I could control. It was about making a space for parents like me, parents who had no choice but to keep fighting, no matter what. And when I finally stepped out of the lawyer's office, documents signed, everything in motion, I felt a sense of peace settle in me. It was over. I had won. The day Sophia was born was a stormy one, but the rain that poured down from the sky felt like the cleansing I had been waiting for. The contractions came in waves, the pain sharp and constant, but it was nothing compared to the overwhelming feeling of finally holding her in my arms. My daughter. My miracle. She was perfect, her tiny hands curling into fists, her eyes wide and bright, already studying the world around her. I whispered her name, Sophia, knowing that she would be strong, that she would know love and security, even if it hadn't come from her father. She would grow up with me, surrounded by people who loved her, by a life we were building together. The following months flew by, a blur of sleepless nights, doctor visits, and the quiet joy of watching Sophia grow. I continued to work on the Nest project, pouring my heart into designs that reflected everything I wanted for my daughter, a place where families could thrive, a community built on care and support. The Harper Foundation awarded me the grant I had applied for, and soon the first phase of the project was underway. My work, my passion, was finally taking shape. Ethan's name became a distant echo, his absence a background hum in the world we had created. I had stopped caring about his approval or his wealth. The only thing that mattered was Sophia, my daughter, my future. As the first wall went up for the Nest Community Housing Project, I stood in front of the construction site, watching the progress, feeling the pride swell inside me. This was my creation, born from my strength and determination. And then, in the distance, I saw a black car pull into the parking lot. It slowed, coming to a stop just at the edge of the site, its tinted windows shielding the face inside. I didn't need to look closer to know who it was. I could already feel his eyes on me, on Sophia. For a moment, our gazes met, his eyes lingering on my daughter as she toddled across the yard, her little legs carrying her toward me. There was no recognition in his face, just a deep, quiet understanding. The car stayed still, and then, after what felt like an eternity, it turned away and drove off. I turned back to Sophia, who had reached me, arms outstretched in triumph. "You did it, little one," I whispered, kneeling down to lift her into my arms. "We did it." As I held her close, I knew in that moment that nothing else mattered. We had created a life, not defined by the mistakes of the past, but by the love and strength we shared. And in Sophia's smile, I saw the future, a future full of possibilities. Behind us, the construction workers continued their work, installing the last of the windows. I glanced back at the frame of the building, knowing that one day it would be more than just a place to live. It would be a symbol of everything we had fought for, everything we had built together. And for the first time in months, I felt truly at peace.